Let me turn to Mr. Thiruvengadam. I mean, it's really a perspective of a person who has embedded TCM within the overall control framework of the organization through his various consulting activities and so on. There are two questions that I'm going to ask him. One is, again, I think taking off from what Mr. Raman has said, what type of organizations are ready to take this model to the next level, where all the processes of the company are integrated into a framework that you are essentially defining? And let me also add to that by asking you, how do we differentiate, when you are, how do you differentiate and also integrate this into the other frameworks? Mr. Raman has already talked about this business excellence and so on. We would add TQM, everything, and ultimately come up with that. So these are the questions.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a very, very interesting point. Let me first address the differentiation. How do you really integrate this? I'd like to take off from where Raman left off. Most organizations which have been seeking external help, and they find external help as a very good means of getting things implemented. So they believe instead of them who are part of an organization stating things, driving implementation, they find it convenient to get an external organization to come and help them in the practice of implementation. When an external organization comes, the external organization, consulting or CIA or any of those organizations, they have a focus and they have a point of view. But you must remember, a good consulting organization always sees what kind of benefits will be passed on to the client organization. So their focus will be on passing on the benefit in a manner where they are able to, at the time of parting and collecting fees, they are able to make a statement saying that we have made this change to you. So the service provider is inclined to making it in an integrated solution rather than saying that I did this technique, this applied this, and it hasn't resulted in anything. No, they would like to say, I have made a change in your profitability structure or your cost focus or the way in which you're working. So they are a very good cause, and that is what I have found. Personally, you would like to meet CEOs and boards and make presentations. In that presentation, you have to give them a value statement. And the value statement, if you find that things are happening in the organization in many ways, you would like to ensure that the value statement comes out of integrating many things that are happening. There may be a lean implementation, like Raman said. There could be any other activity that's going on. Even I have found that when enterprise risk framework, which is a very, very important part of governance today, which is being implemented in organization, we've been able to link it to TCM and show, not just by driving TCM, because ultimately that is to the benefit of the company. This is very important, and apart from the fact that almost, in my opinion, all these together lead up to ultimately benefiting the organization, and that is a good story. And a common method of measurement is very important, and that I think TCM provides it far superior manner than any other kind of technique-based implementation. To address the first point, what type of organizations, this is I would like to classify it, just for simplicity's sake, in two broad categories. One is taking it by the type of industry, what we call manufacturing sector and service sector and financial services sector and IT sector and so on and so forth. The manufacturing sector has taken to this really well, and this has been happening over a period of time. Whatever name you call it, they have done it exceedingly well across the country. And Raman deliberately didn't mention East. I have a lot of experience in East, and East has done it quite well. There are a large number of organizations which belong to certain types of category of businesses. They've done very well in a different way. So manufacturing has taken to it. The other sectors have been taking to it. Today, if you go around and talk to, yesterday Mr. Mahalingam was kind enough to give a very good presentation on what TCS, which is the leading IT sector company in our country, did to TCM in their own way. In this case study, actually, I don't know whether Mr. Mahalingam remembers, you presented it in 2002, 2003, that time frame, and that was the effort that they were doing. I can tell you, I have worked with a number of other IT sector companies. They've all done this in different forms. Every bit of cost is very important. So if you look at the sectors, financial sectors, number of leading banks, public sector banks, private sector banks have all done. So type of organization, from the point of view of industry classification, have been slow, have been taking it, but manufacturing has been leading it. What is more interesting is, if you classify the type of ownership and the type of managerial shareholding, let me classify that as private multinational, private family owned, private Indian sort of professional, and then public sector and government. If you take these 5 categories, the public sector, interestingly, in many organizations, the public sector, which are large ones like Steel Authority, BHEL, and so on and so forth, companies have very good measures. They're very slow, but they do it in a very, very systematic and organized manner. The TCM, in its own way, by way of looking at value addition or by looking at cost management, cost reduction, they've all taken to it. The private sector, multinationals, it is really driven by global organizations. So the global initiatives have taken root. But if it is driven through India, I don't think it is taken off that well as one would have expected. Private sector, business, family-oriented, business-managed, owner-driven, have all done very, very good work in this. So if you look at it sectoral and the type of ownership there is, government is a sector which will probably take it up sometime later in today's proceedings. So this is broadly my take on this.